First of all, I would like to add a disclaimer. I'm not a Pro League coach or anything like that. Over the past years, I've played Rainbow Six Siege and I've enjoyed watching Pro League for a long time. I might not be as up to date as I once was, but I still like to look at some matches and think about what happened. I don't think you need to be in a certain position to have an opinion on something. That being said, I am more than happy to be proven wrong. At the end of the day, I wanted to look back at what happened to MAT since I was rooting for them. First off, I would like to look at some stats. So something that becomes quite clear is that MAT is struggling with their attacking rounds. So MAT only has a 28.89% win rate, but what does that exactly mean? Let's look at a different team from the same group, Bleed Esports. I picked this team precisely for the reason that they are in the exact same group as MAT. This means they have to play the same teams as MAT, so I think comparing the win percent of MAT against Bleed might give us a better idea of how good MAT's win rate really is. Spoiler alert, it's not that good. If we look at the raw data, Bleed has a 47% win rate, which is 18% better than MAT's win rate. However, I want to make some nuances, because Bleed has played some maps where they started on defense and didn't perform that well. For example, against VP, when they got 7-0. This means they didn't complete all the 6 attacking rounds, and this might lead towards their attacking being higher than it could have been. But if I only take the data from the matches where they played all the attacking rounds, they end up on a 46.59% win rate. So there isn't a big difference, but I wanted to touch on this because it might get overlooked. I would like to take a look at 2 maps, specifically Clubhouse and Chalet. I choose these maps since both teams have quite a decent sample size here. MAT doesn't have a lot of sample size in general, but that's just because they haven't played a lot of maps and rounds. MAT certainly has a good sample size on Clubhouse, and Bleed certainly has a good sample size on Chalet and Clubhouse. So that's the reason why I choose these 2 maps. So let's take a look at Clubhouse. We can see that MAT is really struggling here. They've played 12 rounds in total, but only won 1 round, resulting in an 8.33% win rate. If we look at the win rate per side, we can see that the only successful attacking round comes from the CCTV bomb site. However, MAT only has a 33.32% win rate on this site. However, Bleed has an overall win rate of 50% on Clubhouse. Let's see how this is spread over the bomb sites. As we can see, Bleed has a way better win rate on every bomb site, even the harder bomb sites like Church and Arsenal. It seems Bleed is not afraid to attack here. So now that we know all of this information, we can look at some actual gameplay. The first round I would like to take a look at is the first attacking round from MAT against W7M. Here, they have to attack the basement bomb site. We can see that MAT gains map control at the 2-minute mark, which is very fast for a Clubhouse basement attack. Now, when Gomez tries to open the kitchen floor, he gets C4'd. I don't think he can do much about this except for doing it the same way Nate is opening the kitchen floor. But this doesn't mean MAT isn't going to have all the angles they want. MAT tries to go for a blue and Church execute, but I think here they don't play it very optimally. But let's look at the blueprint format to better understand where all the players are. We can see that MAT has 2 players push blue, one from oil and one from secret. Iconic is going moto hatch, but the case and Yoga is shooting bees from the kitchen hatch. I know Yoga isn't actually on the same floor as all the other players, but for references I will just put him on the slide here. For the defenders, we can see that Azami is boosted up near A case. She has a couple of keeper barriers protecting her. Mute is close in the motor door. Warden is playing box 3. Fenrir is in church looking at the kitchen hatch. And Solace is in blue, holding down blue. Now, where does this fall apart? I believe it involves Iconic single-handedly pushing to church while having the case. The other MAD players can't really help him. Hibana might be able to get an angle from secret stairs, like you see here on the screen, but that is not really reliable. So Iconic is stuck with the diffuser, and you never want the diffuser to be with the guy that is on his own, because then something like this happens. And what you can't see is that Iconic dies to Mute playing close in the motor door with a shotgun. This means MAT doesn't have access to the diffuser anymore. And more importantly, W7M knows it's in moto and they can just continue to hold it with Mute's shotgun. The only reason I can come up with for Iconic to solo push into church is because MAT relies on Gomez to push with Iconic. So could MAT have done anything differently? I think so. Like I said earlier, it's not great to have the diffuser to be stuck on the guy that is alone. So I think Ameti can either rotate Termite, or they can rotate Grim. This means they can help Iconic. Now we can see that the bees from Yoga tag Warden here, and even though it's a nice tag to have, I think having the bees for the main church push would have been more beneficial. Here on the screen, I show some positions that I think might be nice to clear out with the bees. And I think the push becomes really strong when you also open the church triple wall here and here. The first point I would like to highlight is not effectively clearing the setup / playing into the setup of the enemy team. There are a couple of rounds where Ameti pushes into the defending setup, which isn't a major issue, like you could be confident in your ability to clear it. However, here I think Ameti isn't clearing correctly. For example, let's look at this run against W7M. They've set up library so that it becomes very hard to enter library. W7M wants to box Ameti into library and then play these long angles onto it. Now the counter to this would be to open this wall next to Frost, which Ameti tries to open, however it's protected by a Maestro Evil Eye, which is destroying the Heartbreeds of Ameti. At this point, Ameti is kinda stuck. They can't clear out the Frost, and they continue to be in these awkward gunfights. But could Ameti have cleared this? I'm not so sure. This hold appears to be very strong, but I think there is a way of clearing the Frost here. If Ameti plays the Sophia on the Canaan window here, and clears the Maestro camera and the Mediumer with a grenade, they can bridge into office, and force the Frost out of that position, which gives the library players quite a bit of freedom. Having a Thatcher here could have helped pretty effectively as well. With the EMP, you can disable the Evil Eye and the Mediumer. This run against VP illustrates this point as well. Here, VP plays a setup to prevent the attackers from entering the building. Now Ameti wants to gain control of the east stairs, but fails to clear out that in office, which leads to Spoit being caught in this awkward gunfight again, and eventually he gets killed. Now Ameti gets the trade here, but I believe then could have also landed the shots here on Diaz. Meanwhile, with all this happening, Gomez is below in customs trying to clear out 90. But Ameti seems to forget about Joystick here. Who was the most important player to clear out? So here I think Ameti should want to have more players focus on clearing Joystick out of CCTV. I believe this is achievable by having a player at the CCTV window, another at the break room door, along with the bug below and utilizing some yellow pings from a drone. Now the last point I would like to touch on is time management. I think Ameti is really slow with clearing the map. Currently droning is a bit underappreciated by observers, so it's a bit hard to see how Ameti is clearing the maps. However, if we look at this run against W7M, we can see that Ameti starts to take map control at around 1 minute and 55 seconds. More importantly, they begin to clear the hold from W7M at about 1 minute and 30 seconds, which is quite slow, especially with all the utilities still being up. Now is Ameti that bad? Certainly not. They can also play very good seeds, for example in this round on a bank top floor attack. We can see that Ameti is going for a window take. For that to be successful, they need to force out the player in Trump, so that the CEO window player can repel it. Now Ameti gets a perfect trade on Joystick, killing Gomez, and then Shepard as well at the same time. They're holding the generator push, and with that, Ameti basically won the round. Alright, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. But most importantly, thanks for watching.